Okay, thank you for joining this epic conversation. Now, today we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Donald Scott. And I'm just so honored to speak with you, Donald, because we met a couple of months ago in Costa Rica. And ever since we met, I've noticed that you have this like fierce routine. Like the first thing you told me was that you woke up at 4:30 in the morning. And you really you maintained that over the time that we knew each other. And another reason I'm excited to talk to you is because I normally coach and train and support women. And now I feel like your perspective is going to be so helpful because in the fitness industry, we primarily base it around how men train.
Mhm.
And so I'm excited to talk to you about all your things. So,
Yeah.
Donald, I know you like to introduce yourself because Donald feels like he is ever changing. So, Mr. Donald Scott, who do you feel like will have the pleasure to talk with today?
Yes. Today, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm always invested and interested in having conversations about fitness, so I appreciate the work that you're doing. And today, probably I embody the individual who does too much and has to take time to rest and rejuvenate. And so what I and I,
Mm,
I shared these handful of photos on Calle Bojillo the other day.
hmm
There was an exercise experience for fitness enthusiasts. And the first part was with these guys who they're basically gymnasts, right? And they can do pull-ups and muscle ups, and they can lay flat across the ground, but holding on to the rings. Like I can't do those things. My muscles just don't do that. I've never practiced that. And so that was a good experience of just, pushing my body to a different limit. But then after that, a CrossFit trainer showed up, and then we did some light calisthenics to get the body activated. And then we did 15 minutes of burpees, 5 burpees, 10 squats, 15 sit-ups. Uh,
hmm
and so I did all that. And actually, I had gone to the beach in the morning for my normal routine. And then
mm.
later in the evening, we went to the club, actually Green Room, for those who are in Jaco. And there was a DJ who was awesome, and so we danced all night. And so the next day,
Ooh.
I was tired as hell, and so my body is actually still pretty tired. I did not make it to the beach this morning, and I actually slept until 5 a.m. Instead of 4:30. Um, but I'm gonna go to the beach a little bit later. But in the
Mm,
in the point that I am right now is I recognize the importance of rest to
wow.
get back into the normal routine, because I know that sometimes I overdo it. And when I overdo it, my body forces me to sit down. And then
Uh-huh.
I don't like that because, we can get into this, but like when you're always active and then you can't be active,
Yeah.
it triggers well, for me, sometimes it may trigger voices that aren't
Mm.
always as positive as they normally are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. So voices, and so do you feel like exercise is your place where you can like quiet the noise?
Yes. So I would say, if I think back to childhood, uh, I was always running. Actually, my mom has a story of my babysitter saying that the only thing I did when I was 2 years old was run up and down the block. And so I've always had more energy than most people can imagine. And then, you get a little older. So we used to play football and go to the basketball court when I was like sixth, seventh, eighth grade. And then we started football in high school. And then I was a three-sport athlete. And I found my happy place in the weight room, actually.
Mm.
And so I lifted weights forever. And I remember senior year, I actually would go to the gym twice a day at school. And then I would go to practice because I can be a little nuts. Um, but that foundation, right, has carried me through. So I played football in college, and then when I graduated, I did flag football. And I even with the kids now, I sometimes run around Futsal Park. And then my beach exercise routine, though, is always some sort of muscular exercise and then a run. And we can talk about that too, on the ways that like my training has changed as my body has changed or as my lifestyle and habits have changed. But what has remained constant is always exercising. And I think that's because exercise makes me feel good about myself.
Uh-huh. Wow, you just touched on so much there. Like what I want to talk about is like your body, mind, and spirit. I just love the well-rounded approach to fitness. And so you already mentioned a couple things. Like you mentioned how exercise helps you with your mental health. Does that sound like kind of right?
Yep.
And so, okay, I want to back it up a little bit because, for somebody who's looking at you or kind of knows your story, they're like, oh, it's easy for him. Like he's always been active and fit. But like, let's just, tell the audience about you have a full life. You are married in a partnership, you have 3 children, and you are also self-employed. And so
Yes.
I'm just so interested because I speak with a lot of men and women who have all these things on their plate and they're just, exercise either becomes lost in translation or it becomes, strictly about vanity, or it becomes like I went to the doctor and now I need to, bring these levels down. And so for yourself, like, I just want you to speak into like your, like, what is it that allows you to wake up every morning at 4:30? Like, is it fierce discipline? Do you force yourself
Mm.
out? Do you have to go to bed really early? Like, walk us through a day in the life.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll start with this. Um, as it relates to my peer group, I actually am superhuman. And sometimes that's difficult to appreciate or articulate. But as I mentioned, like I do actually have a motor that is constantly running. And so in that way, I don't have to wake myself up at 4:30 because I wake up with the sun. And actually, I wake up just before the sun. I wake up with the roosters. So like I'll start to hear the roosters start chattering, and then I'll hear the birds like they're an alarm, and then I'm immediately awake.
Right.
And then my mind starts running, and then I'm like, all right, fine, I guess I'll get up. Let me check what time it is. And it'd be like 4:15. I'm like, damn, let me get 15 more minutes. But I would say um, prioritization of time has always been important to me, I think. And I give actually a little shout out to like the Matrix. One of the statements in the Matrix was, how can we? I think it's like this: how can we have time if we don't take time, or if we don't make the time? And I think that one thing that I've always done is made time for exercise, and some of that has to do with the concept of like believing that my body is my temple. I do fully believe that. And you did mention vanity. I do like to look good. So,
Don't we all?
and actually, we could cycle around this little comment, but and actually mental health in too. So like this is a story. Uh, COVID. When COVID happened, they started shutting down my places of exercise, right? And so the gym got shut down, and then they started putting yellow tape around parks, and I could no longer do pull-ups and stuff. And then the final straw for me was they closed the Pflugerville running lake, and I couldn't run there. And when that happened, I actually had a meltdown, which we don't have to get into on this call. So, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
And then because of the stress of trying to find different ways to cope with that experience, I went to the gym. I found a trainer, but then I was overdoing it and I injured my arm. And in that experience, then I couldn't move. I could not sleep. And it felt really bad. But my trainer was like, all right, you'll be okay. Go see this physical therapist. And I had never had to go to a physical therapist before. And so there was a little bit of, I would use the word anxiety, but also vulnerability. Because even though I played football for so many years, I never got injured. And so not being injured became a part of how I self-identified as like somebody who can never be injured. So, you know, when you cannot move and you're used to being active all the time, you know, you start feeling differently about yourself. And so I was like, oh man, you know, this is it. I'm never gonna be able to exercise again. You know, you start down, I don't know, not
Yeah.
everybody does this, but sometimes, you know, you can start down a negative path. Um,
Hmm.
but then the trainer was like, okay, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And I was like, well, actually, I really want to be sexy at the beach when I'm 50. Um,
Hmm.
and so we started exercising toward that goal, right? Because being sexy at 50 isn't necessarily having super large traps and huge biceps, right?
Yeah.
You have to have foundational core definition in your legs, right? Your body
Hmm.
weight needs to be able to be carried. And you have to be able to do exercises that elevate your heart rate while also strengthening, you know, core muscles. And
Wow.
so I started doing those exercises at the gym at
Okay,
COVID.
I gotta ask. I gotta stop. What exercises? Like everybody's probably like,
Okay,
what
okay,
do
okay.
you
All
do?
right. Lots of push-ups,
Uh-huh.
pull-ups, um, move, let's say it dynamic pull-ups, and then like jumps and
Mm.
balance, a lot of balance on the ball. You know,
Hmm.
like being able to balance on your left leg, being able to balance on your right leg, be able to squat down without falling off of the balance ball. You know, the little half piece. I
Nice.
can't think of what it's called.
Yeah, the Bosu.
The Bosu ball.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Being able to do push-ups on the Bosu ball.
Nice.
We kind of, so as a football player, you know, it was all like squats, hack squats, leg curls,
Yeah.
deadlifts, you know, how much can you bench? Um, but in that experience, moving away from those exercises, I haven't done bench press in years. Although now I could probably do 100 push-ups right now if I wanted to. It would be hard, but I could definitely do about 80, and then those
Nice.
last 20 would be tough. Um, and I can do probably 20 pull-ups in a row, but after those
Wow.
20, I could then go into reps, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
type of exercise, and then I do squats at the beach, and I do one leg. I think they're called pistol squats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, and
Wow.
then just walking down the beach or running down the beach, right? So I'm not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
old. I'm 42. I think I look
Mm.
pretty good.
Damn.
Um, but what I won't do is injure myself now because I'm not trying to do more weight than my body should, even if my mind thinks I should.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So,
So it's kind
so
of a shift.
yeah, yeah. So, okay. So what I hear from you is that you mostly do body weighted exercises.
Mhm.
You had an injury around COVID time. You injured your arm, you said,
Yeah.
because you said you were overdoing it. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I was like overcompensating for the loss of my
Right.
normal routine.
Uh-huh.
And then I overdid it at the gym, and like I did something, I tightened something too much, and then my nerve
Ooh,
going down
yeah.
to my pinky was too tight. And so then like the whole side of my body was, I couldn't use it.
Oh,
And so that was
it's
terrible. That was terrible. That was terrible.
the body says no, right? The body
Yeah,
will
right.
tell you when it's like, I'm done. And
Yeah,
so now
exactly.
you find that you're able to modulate like how much exercise you do without getting injured.
Yes.
And so you said, like, since you normally do body weighted exercises, do you do, because those are tough. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
lifting up, how much do you weigh?
You know, great question. I don't know because I haven't been on a scale in a long time. That's
Yeah.
also a mental health thing. I
Cool.
used to,
Yeah.
there was a time when I was overly concerned about how much I weighed.
Ooh,
Um,
I want to talk about that.
and so then I was like, well, fuck it. Excuse me. Never mind. I'm never going to get on a scale anymore.
Hmm.
And so I haven't been on a scale in years. I'm probably though, let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm about 175.
Hmm.
Yeah,
175. And you're
that's
how
what I think.
tall?
I am 5'8", unless I'm getting taller, hopefully.
5'8". Okay, now I just want to talk about that, mental health thing, because I mean, women have the same thing. I know tons of women that avoid the scale because it just sends you on a rabbit hole.
Hmm.
And I think for men and women it's different. Like for women, we want to weigh less. And
Right.
for men, I believe, is it opposite?
Yeah, usually we're trying to gain weight because the weight gain is a function of muscle gain. Usually.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for unless you're trying to lose weight, right? If you're trying to lose weight, then
Yes.
you're always getting on the scale. But I think even if you're this, I, yeah. So the scale, depending on your personality type, can become um, evil. I think I'll use
Mm-hmm.
that word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you wake up
Totally.
in the morning and you get on the scale and you feel a certain way about yourself based on whatever that number is.
Uh-huh.
That that is not a way to set yourself up for success for the rest of your day, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
body changes all the time anyway, right?
Right.
So maybe the moon is heavier and I ate
Yeah.
something, or like I drank more water than normal, or
Yes.
whatever. You
Totally.
never know. And if we're counting, and then you start talking about counting carbs and calories,
Yeah.
right? But I don't do that either. But what I try to do is eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, drink a lot of water, and eat some meat
Mm.
sometimes. If I do
Wow.
that and exercise, then I trust my body to do what it's supposed to do. And then, fine.
Did you ever count calories or go into like the macros and the
Uh,
carbs and
okay. I'll be honest. In high school, I wrestled. And when I wrestled in high school, I would cut weight. And because of maybe my over intensity at things that I focus on, I would like starve. Um, and the for me, the concept of starving back then was rooted in control, my ability to control my consumption, and then prove that I still had enough energy to do a certain set of things.
Mm.
I do not. Okay, so I do not recommend cutting weight at all because it's dangerous. I will say though, I can probably perform at a higher level with less food consumed than most people because of what I put my body through
Mhm.
freshman year in high school.
Right.
Because starving makes you feel very different about what's important.
Huh.
So I would so now I will say though, right? Like if you do that, then you put yourself at risk. So, and I'll be very honest, we used to cut weight and then we would get on the scale, right? And then anybody who wrestles knows. You cut weight, get on the scale, and then there was time between having weighed in and your actual match where you could go eat. But then because people are starving, we eat too much. And then because we've eaten too
Mhm.
much, it's all going to come back up, right? Now, I think that they have medical terms for what happens when you eat and you vomit. I don't
Oh boy.
necessarily subscribe to that experience, but I'm
Wow.
saying that that's the experience that I had. Um,
Wow.
and so, but it was always sports related. It was always wrestling only. As soon as track season showed up, I
Yeah.
stopped that, right?
Right.
And so it was contained, but it was contained for me. I know that there are people who suffer from that
Mhm.
experience, and
Yeah.
then if you go into, okay, am I counting my calories, am I getting on the scale, and now am
Mhm.
I worried about my calories and my scale, and so now I'm
Yeah.
subjecting my body to activities that probably are not most beneficial or healthy, but I'm not
And
judging.
then yeah, yeah, but then it's tough because you're also getting validation and you're getting judged on, based off of your weight and how you're
Mhm.
performing. So you're getting all this positive reinforcement. And then for
Right.
you just to be able to go into track and field and, kind of leave that whole thing behind, it was that a conscious mental shift for you? Like were you present and like did you know that that no longer served you.
Yeah, right. Because you don't have to starve for track. I mean, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
Okay.
they let kids cut weight anymore,
Mm.
but I'm sure that kids are cutting weight. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
that's just a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you said something really cool. You said you don't recommend cutting weight. You said you feel like it's dangerous.
Yeah. I think uh I think that's a known fact that
Yeah. Yeah.
cutting weight is dangerous. I don't think they allow, I mean, rules are rules, but
Uh-huh.
then people do what they want to do. I believe that, when was I in high school? In the 90s, it was okay for your coach to expect you to go down a weight class, right? So if
Mm.
I come in freshman year and I weigh 157, then the expectation, and weight classes, you can tell me how long I want to talk about this, but like weight classes are
Yeah.
distinct.
Yeah.
And so like back then it was like 125, 119, 125, 130, 135, 145, 152, and then 215, and
Oh,
then you were heavy, and
right.
then whatever size you wanted. So anybody that was above a weight class usually tried to come down too. And the assumption is that if I'm 157 and I can get down to 145, I'm stronger than everybody whose body weight
Mm.
is naturally 145 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's like the logic behind that. But then if you start
Yeah.
getting into like, well, did you cut weight and burn through all your muscle? Or, did you cut weight and burn fat, but did you actually need that fat? And then, and then you get
Yeah.
into like comparing your body and looking at how
Totally.
much body fat you have.
Yeah.
It creates, it does create a thought pattern about how you see yourself in the mirror
Yes.
as it pertains to what you're trying to accomplish.
I
I'll say it
agree.
like that.
And as you're speaking, I'm thinking fitness competitions and bodybuilding, because that's the world
Mm,
that I come from, is, working out at Gold's Gym, and people were entering their weight classes and like downing the protein and downing the oats right
right.
after their workout. And some people had to come in for fasted workouts because they had to, they were doing their weigh-ins or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was. So I think that conversation is pretty relevant to people that can relate to either
Yeah.
sports or the fitness industry. Um, did you ever do a competition or ever think about it?
No. Um, but these days, I never did a formal competition. However, I will say that I'm always competing with the guy I see walking next to me.
Yeah.
So anytime I see some dude and I think he's sexy at the beach, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I probably need to do some more sit-ups, or
Wow,
even with these
right.
guys that were the gymnasts, like
Mm,
I won't say that I'm too old. I am not invested enough to try to one day do an iron cross. You know what I mean?
right.
But, but I do feel competitive at those people who can. Um,
Wow.
so like, but that's, competitive nature and just whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
It's so interesting to hear this, because like I would never have known this, because it's like I just think women are like that. We're always comparing ourselves. We have this comparisonitis where it's like, oh, okay. Like, but I think I feel like it hits different for women. Like we will,
Mhm.
but I think it's actually not different now that I'm hearing you speak. I think it
Well,
depends on the individual.
yeah, I think okay, so this is a media and culture thing, what I'm getting
Mm,
ready to say right now, right? Like the definition of beauty and standards is many times given to us externally, right? So if you didn't have any media, you would believe that beauty is whatever you see around you. So your mom, your aunt, your sister, and then what you would be paying attention to is how people who you want to be attractive to, are receiving the people around
mhm,
you. So if
right.
all of you have a very specific body type and structure, right? Then if your body structure matches this body structure and that person is in a relationship, then you believe that you look good because you look like them too.
Yeah.
But we get to see, in whatever form or fashion, magazine, television, now, all the social media, we get to see what the definition of sexy is supposed to be. Even, for example, like this is random, but I'm getting ready to make a racialized statement. The mannequins at the Nike store have the physique of athletic Black men, even to the point that the nose and the lips on the mannequin have Africanized features. Right now, that's not always been the case. And I'm saying that most specifically about, quote, not just the Nike store, but like athletic stores in general.
Yeah.
Because what they're telling us as a consumer is that these clothes were cut for this body type, and this body type is the archetype of what athletic build looks like. The same is also true if you think about like this concept of, I don't know, Dove. I can't think specifically, but I think it's Dove. It's like, here, look at all these different body types of women. The reason that is a big deal is because for years, we've only been told that thin can be on TV, right? And so then it's like, all right, well, shit, if thin is on TV and I'm not thin and my mom's not thin and nobody around me is thin, what am I supposed to do? Right. And then you get into that cycle.
Big cycle. Yes.
And so, that's just a thing. But I think a lot of it has to do with media consumption of external images. And when I say external, I mean external to who we actually spend our time with.
Right. Yes.
Because I look like I'm actually, here's the thing. I've always wanted to be taller. My dad is tall. His brothers are tall. My granddad was taller than me, but I get my height from my granddad's side of the family. Fine. Right. Well, now that I'm older, I appreciate how tall I am because I'm actually average height. And as it turns out, the world is built for people who are average height. So I can fit in any car. I'm very comfortable on airplanes. I never have to duck when I walk through doors. And for the most part, I'm about as tall as most of the women. Right.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? Like, so I'm good.
Yeah.
But growing up, basketball is what you needed to be successful. And if you need to be successful, you want to play basketball, you need to be 6 feet. And so I was always like stretching and like trying to nap because they said if you rest, you would get taller. I never got over 5'8", and I was like, fuck. And like that was the thing until let's see. Even now, actually, if I'm being honest, if I see a tall guy, I'm like, oh, because like tall, dark, and handsome, right, is a thing.
Totally.
Right. And so these are messages that we consume. So going back to the question, is it different for men and women? I think that women are allowed to be more expressive in the idea that you're supposed to be more competitive physically. But everybody is shown what beauty is supposed to be. And then we have to make our decision on how we feel about it.
Yes. Wow, that's just so helpful. So you're 42, you have the same voices. You have the same voices in your head that, most humans do. You also have the discernment because when you're training too much and when you need to take it down a notch. And also you mentioned nutrition. Like you said, you eat fruits and vegetables, then you eat some meat sometimes. So do the voices play into your nutrition? Like, are you, because, in fitness, we have this narrative that protein helps you gain muscle. So do those narratives kind of like, do they cloud in? Do they come in, or the calories or the carbs or the fruits and the sugars? Like, how is it all in your head?
Okay, let me think about this. In high school, we used to take creatine. For whatever reason, somebody told us to. They told us that like it makes your muscles bigger and you'll be bigger, faster, stronger. But we only did it during football season because it was at the time known that creatine will make you cramp up, and you can't really be cramping during wrestling because you're starving, and track because you're running too much. And like if you cramp in the middle of a 400, that's terrible. Football is a little bit different in that it's very impact sport. So like your movements are faster and you're less likely to cramp for the most part in general. And I could be wrong about that. Somebody can be like, that's not factually accurate. Sure, whatever.
Sure.
And then I played football in college, and they would have us drink protein drinks and like whatever other type of energy drink. But for the most part, all that stuff is full of sugar. Which and then okay, here's a conversation now about the diet industry, right? Like not dieting, but like the food industry. They tell us what we're supposed to consume, and then we consume it because they sell it to us, right? So in reality, most people have a sugar addiction, and you will not know that you are addicted to sugar until you actively try to stay away from it. And when you try to actively stay away from sugar, that's when you learn that everything has sugar in it. So like that's a statement. I don't personally try to do like the big protein drinks anymore, but I do get this powder from the Macrobiotica on the main road. But I have it primarily because let me see how to say this. I would say that I do still suffer from not eating consistently. And because it's hard sometimes for me to eat, the protein shake helps me not feel upset, because I can be hangry, right?
Yes.
And that starts to happen. But the protein shake inside of a smoothie will allow me to then be satisfied until like lunchtime, and then maybe I have a banana, orange, piece of bread, maybe a sausage, whatever. But sometimes if, and actually I'm one of those people who believes that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I believe that, but I don't always feel like eating breakfast. And if I don't eat breakfast, then like by lunch, I'm ready to crash. And so the protein shake does actually help, but I don't take protein shake and then go to the gym, for example.
Right.
If I'm going to go to the beach, I drink a little bit of water and have a banana, and I do enough exercise such that when that energy from the banana runs out, I come back home, because I'm like, all right, that's done.
So that's your morning routine. You wake up, you drink water, have a banana, go work out,
go to the beach.
And then come back when you feel like you're done.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what do? You have a shake or some food?
Yeah, then I figure it out. Yeah, then it depends. The days are always different. If I didn't eat very well the night before, maybe I'm hungrier in the morning. If I ate a lot the night before, maybe I'm not that hungry in the morning. But I and as you know, having lived in Costa Rica, food scarcity can be an issue. And so sometimes, like when I was in the States, there's ready access. Actually, there's ready access to an oven first and foremost, right? So when you have an oven, that means you can bake biscuits, you can bake bacon, right? There's all kind of food things you can make. We have an oven. We don't have an oven here, which means like a whole host of things are restricted from me. And so, there's oatmeal, grits, eggs, typical if you're here, right? Rice and beans, bread, cheese. And so after a while, I'm like, well, I'm tired of eating that shit. And so then it'll just be like smoothie, forget it. So it's dynamic, very dynamic.
I know. Well, see, I'm so interested to hear this, because I think you're like very like beefy, like your muscles are full and you have definition. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're not obsessing over protein. You're not obsessing over like your eating times. You're just kind of intuitively, okay, I'm tired of the rice and beans today. I'll grab something else. But it seems to work for you, which, in the Western culture here, it's very, very loud about getting enough protein. And how that helps X, Y, and Z, and la 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 la, but it's like your energy levels seem to be pretty
Yeah.
stable, and
Yeah.
your muscles seem to be pretty strong. You're not injured, you know. And so I'm curious, like you eat fruits, like how many fruits would you say it's like how many fruits would you eat on average in a day?
Uh, well, I probably eat at least three. I start with a banana, probably have an apple and an orange, and then there's pineapple. Um, we have papaya. Actually, okay. So here's the other thing, right? Actually, I'll make 2 points. Uh, and this is a very simple point, but I think it's really important. Everybody's body is different, and so you're correct. I can eat what I want, and then I can go do some pull-ups, some sit-ups, and some push-ups, and my shoulders look well defined, my biceps look great, and I have abs, right? Great. That's me though. It just so happens that those things are the things that have been defined as like what attractive and healthy looks like. But like I said, there's people who can do things I cannot even start to do, and their body type looks completely different from mine. So if the two of us walk into a room and then they did their exercise first, everybody would be amazed. And then when they ask me to do the same thing, just because I look the way I look, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I would say is people people have to be comfortable in their own body. And that is the hardest part, because again, they're telling us don't be comfortable. Now, I'm not saying eat what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're eating fried chicken every day and eating out all the time and consuming as much salt, sugar, fat, and butter as you can, then you are going to look that way. But if you eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can, and I only drink water, actually, I don't drink any juice or soda, which is also a very sugar heavy experience. But like, if your diet and your exercise are accurate, your body will do what it's supposed to do, right? You won't carry extra weight. Your muscles will be whatever musculature it's supposed to be, and you don't really have to worry about it. But again, that's easy to say because most people are usually battling the messaging of what we're supposed to look like. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
some people are sexy, fine. Some people aren't. You know what I mean? Like,
some people are, some people, yeah, but you're right. It's
actually, I'll say this, even that idea, right?
Yeah.
Some people are sexy to me.
Yeah.
And some people aren't. But people who are sexy to me may not be sexy to somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so if we all are, and I bring that up because for me, when I think of exercise and routine, like I said, a lot of it is vanity. Like, I'm not exercising anymore to compete, and I'm not necessarily running to run a race.
Yes.
I just do it because literally I just want to look good at the beach.
Yeah. And I think also for you, just from what I'm hearing, like there's a mental health component too. Like it's a place where you quiet the noise, and maybe there's this grounding feature. Maybe that's not true. Maybe you're just like, I need to but like to get up at 4:30 in the morning every day because you just want to look sexy, like whatever drives you,
Oh yeah, right. Now
that drives you.
Let me think. Do I now I get up at 4:30 just because I get up at 4:30. I don't necessarily get up at 4:30 and think, oh, I need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I need to go to the beach so that I can look good.
Totally.
But when I start my day at 4:30, I know that I don't want to start my day looking at the phone and thinking about work.
Yeah.
Right? It's too early to eat.
Yes.
And yes, the exercise in the morning at the beach does provide also a meditative component.
Oh, very much
and
so.
You know what else I'll mention, because I recognize what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I have the privilege of being able to get up and have ready access to a beach.
Yeah, but
From a
you've
mental
created
health
that
perspective, Like I don't think there's anything, this is my opinion, I don't think there's anything better than getting up and going to the beach. Because the morning sun, the ocean, is very calming. My previous experience with life was wake up, turn on the computer, start working, try to run to the gym, run back, get back on a call, do the thing. Right. And then like, I got kids, wife. So like,
no doubt.
So yes, I have actually. So yes, I've changed my lifestyle significantly. And that changed lifestyle then affords me the ability to say, okay, I can eat a banana and walk over to the beach or ride my bike.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So there is a whole lot of privilege that I'm exuding right now.
But I think it's so valuable because you have lived that hustle life where you woke up, you hit the computer, you have the kids, you got the wife, you got to, manage what are you eating? Maybe it was louder in your head at the time of like consuming sugar, extra, being fine tuned on your diet. Okay, now I want to ask some like rapid fire questions, and then
I'm ready.
I also want to talk about any spiritual practice that you do, because we know you do the body, the physical work, and the nutrition. And then we know you have that mental practice and that kind of, I call it discipline. And also, well, I'm just listening to you talk and I'm like, oh, his testosterone levels are like so optimized, because for men, they have their testosterone peak at 5 a.m. And you're just like, I just wake up at 5, I just wake up at 4:30. And it's like, oh, okay. So let's just get this straight, like in terms of everything that you're doing. So anybody listening who's like, oh, okay. Okay. So some rapid fire questions here. Now protein, how many days a week would you say you eat meat?
I don't know. So I was a vegetarian for a little while.
Yes.
And we don't really eat that much meat in the house anyway, and we don't really cook it.
Yeah.
So I would say my meat consumption, for example, I had pepperoni pizza last night. You know what I mean? Like that's, or maybe we'll buy sausages. So let's say maybe 3 days out of 7, but it's not strict. And it's probably, we probably eat way less meat than we do eat meat.
Wow. And do you drink alcohol?
I do not. I am sober these days. Actually, I just had a beer though, one, but I've been sober since going into 2019. I had quit from 2019 until I probably had my first drink a couple weeks ago. But I used to be a super drinker, which I'll also say, the consumption of alcohol is also something that's given to us from the media, right? And I was just saying, actually, I was journaling. My reward system used to be alcohol. And I was taught that in college. It was reinforced in college by those who said that they had started drinking in high school. And now in every sports experience, if you watch it on TV, what they're selling you is alcohol. The idea that you must consume alcohol in order to socialize and have a good time, I think, is one of the other reasons why people have a hard time with their fitness goals. And I'll say this and then we can move forward. When I decided to break my fast, I'll say it like that. When I decided to break my fast, I had 2 drinks that night. And when I woke up the next day, I felt terrible. And I felt terrible for 2 reasons. 1, my body was actually like, what the hell is that? And then 2, because my body was like, what the hell is that? I could not get up and go to the beach. And I felt terrible about having made the decision to drink alcohol, which now is affecting my ability to go to the beach. And so I stopped. So I was like, okay, that was cool, but I'm not doing that anymore. But, like I said, I had 1 beer, I drank it slow. But again, and actually the reason I had it was because I had been watching football the night before and watched 1,000 fucking beer commercials, and then went to watch some soccer, and I was like, oh, I need a beer.
Totally. Wow.
And so I recognized it. But like I'm not a drinker anymore.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said drinking was related to reward,
Yeah.
and it was, you said 2019, which is when you were still living in the US.
Yes.
So lifestyle was a little more stressed.
Let's see. I stopped drinking in 2019 because actually, I stopped drinking because I used to drink and drive. And
Mm.
drinking and driving is extremely dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also something that's not penal. Let me see how to say this. You should not be able to drive to a bar, right?
Mm.
If you can drive to a bar, you didn't go to the bar to be sober. And most
Yeah.
people don't do designated driver anymore, right? And so we had started joking about designated drunk driver.
Ah, yes.
And I actually have the ability to be shit-faced, but not slur. And
Ah,
because I don't slur, if I get pulled over, you would not know that I have had too much to drink.
right.
That was dangerous. And I have a family and I have too many responsibilities. And I
Mm-hmm.
recognized my inability to control my consumption,
Mm.
such that when I start drinking, I need to be blackout, right? Otherwise, why am I drinking?
Right.
Um, which is like that also has something to do with like I'm sometimes a bit too intense. So I had to stop. And so I needed to stop so that I could make sure that my body has control of the consumption.
Wow.
Um, and so now I do. And so now I can have one
Yeah,
and be like, all right, one, done.
totally.
But before I need to like have all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I can knock down 8. Not that I'm just saying that we learn to
totally.
drink a lot,
Yes.
especially in college. And then it's
Uh-huh.
like you get out of college and everybody's drinking and you're partying and it's shots and it's these songs and we're partying.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
actually, and I'll say this, I'll say the universe conspires to my benefit.
Mm.
If I were actively drinking when COVID hit and we no longer had to leave the house, I do not believe that we would have made it to Costa Rica,
Mm.
because I'm certain that my consumption would have increased because I would have had zero responsibility. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like nobody was driving anywhere.
Yes.
Nobody was leaving for work. The kids weren't going to practice. Nobody was
Uh-huh.
volunteering. You know,
Totally.
I probably I'm very thankful that, you know, I stopped and then we had the experience that we had.
Yeah.
Uh yes.
I know COVID was just a downhill for a lot of people for that reason. You don't have to go anywhere. Some people lost their jobs, some people they just, yeah, it's like party mode all the
Yeah,
time.
right. Exactly.
Wow, I think that's such a relatable conversation for so many people because yeah, alcohol is very socially acceptable.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Okay. Rapid fire. Back to it. Thanks for that
Okay.
lovely
Yeah.
answer, though.
I'll try to
Um,
keep my answer short.
oh no, I love the explanation. Okay, so we did the protein, we did the alcohol. How many hours of sleep would you say you get a night?
Yes. Let's see. I do my best to get at least 6 hours of sleep.
Uh-huh.
Um, I recognize that I'm supposed to get 8, but I personally don't actually need 8. I can operate on 4 to 6, but again, that's a training experience. Um, but but I do notice now. Actually, no, I think I'm pretty good. So because I don't drink and because I'm like less stress, I don't wake up with a headache if I didn't get enough sleep, because I believe that my body is getting enough rest.
Mm.
And speaking of Costa Rica, right? Like if I wake up with the sun, boom, it's like 4:30. I'm at the beach by 5. Back here like 5:36. But then the sun goes down again at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so 5:30. So by 6:30, it's nighttime,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna relax, so it's less stress. I'm not working.
Uh-huh.
My workday is probably ended around 4 p.m. So I've had from 4 to 8 really to relax. And then maybe I'll go watch a football game or just hang around the house. And then I'm usually asleep by like 9:30, 10.
Right.
And then, 10 to 4. And then I wake back up.
Yeah.
And then sunrise, sunset,
Oh,
do it
I
again.
miss it,
Yeah,
Donald. I
pura
miss
vida.
that.
Pura
Oh,
vida.
that schedule is just so and one thing I wanted to say too about your morning is that morning sun is really helps to activate the mitochondria. So
Mhm.
whatever helps you get out there in the morning, like, oh my God, praise to you. Cause I know when I was there, I had to, mine was a little more effort though. Like I had
Yeah.
to set the alarm, and then I just like, okay, shake it off, just get the clothes on and go. But yeah, you sound like you're just like boom, awake and gone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
4 to 6 hours a night. Okay. What would you say your favorite exercises?
Favorite exercise. Yeah, I mean, right now I like pull-ups.
Knew you were gonna say that.
But I mean, I come from uh okay, going back to vanity, right? Like back when going to the beach was vacation,
Hmm.
then there's this narrative of suns out, guns out, right? One, and then two, doing curls for the girls, right? So because we know that we're told that biceps are supposed to be something that have value,
Mm.
um, pull-ups help with bicep strength, but also, I mean, wrist strength, hand strength, lower back, mid back,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like pull-ups are pretty
everything.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah,
and so I
pretty
think
much.
those help activate like the whole body. And then when you're up on the thing, you can do ab exercise, you could do leg exercise, you can do
Exactly.
all kinds of shit.
Wow.
Uh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So even though I
Least,
say pull up, it's like the pull up bar probably
yeah.
is
Oh yeah, yep, yep.
the best place. Yeah.
And least favorite exercise.
Right now, I am not liking these pistol squats.
Ooh,
Uh,
so tough.
they are hard. And like sometimes, like I said, going back to being competitive, sometimes I see people do them perfectly. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, ugh.
Those are,
Um,
yeah, there's,
uh, yeah, but they're fun.
uh-huh.
And they're a little bit different. So being at the beach, with the slant, sometimes I do them going downhill and sometimes I
Oh
try and
yeah.
do them going
Wow.
back uphill. But I can only do a handful of them. They're tough. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, but I'm getting better.
I just remembered your kids and us playing soccer at the beach, and like we haven't even talked about that because you don't really consider that part of your activity. You're just like, I'm just playing around with my kids here.
Oh, you know what though? I will say this. Good point. Because I overplan everything. One thing that is really important to me is being able to play with the kids.
Mm,
So although I said vanity, right? That's a high one.
yeah.
Um, but I recognize that at some point my oldest will be stronger than me, or he
Ooh.
may be faster than me, maybe taller, bigger, right? I still want to be able to participate in sports
Hmm.
with him and in the middle and then the youngest. Right.
Wow.
So the youngest is 7. Oh, I got 8 more years basically until he hits his physical peak.
Yeah.
But in 8 years, I still need to be able to, do more push-ups and be
Totally.
faster. You know what I mean? So what's that? 8, 42, 50. So I need to be
There
faster
you
than a
go.
15-year-old when I'm 50.
Ooh, I see it. I don't
Yeah.
think it's
So
going to be a
like,
problem at all.
yeah, it shouldn't be
Yeah.
now that
No.
I've spoken it into the universe.
Exactly. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's such a good transition into the next thing. And then we can wrap it up. And then if you want to say anything, if you want to give any, men's dads advice, like
Yeah.
perfect. Is you mentioned, you speaking it. And to me, that's like a spiritual practice. And then you
Yes.
also mentioned journaling. And so now I'm curious on, we talk about body, mind, and spirit health. And I think you're a great embodiment of the three, but we haven't really talked about that spiritual side. If there's like anything, like, I know, are married to Melissa, who's like really up in that. And so I'm
Yep.
curious if any practices that you do, even if they're just coming to you now, maybe you do them like unconsciously,
Yeah.
but to help you, show up in this way, or, get these visions that you have for like
Mhm,
day
mhm, mhm.
50 and your future.
Oh yeah, right, right. Okay. Okay. Spirituality. Okay, so I was born and raised in church, Black Baptist church.
Yes.
Um, so I'm still moved by the organ. Um, I really like
Mm.
the album, although I know Kanye West is very controversial because he's nuts. Uh, the album that he did, Jesus is Born, is a
Mhm.
very good album just for like recentering the church experience. I'll just say that. Sunday
Wow.
service is good. Okay, fine. Um,
Ooh.
we are not religious in the house necessarily, but as you mentioned, right, like Melissa practices Buddhism.
Mhm.
Um, she's a yoga instructor and a Reiki master. Um,
Mhm.
we both we both believe in intentional projection. I would say if there's one thing that overlaps our spiritual belief system, it would be the idea that that words matter, and
Yeah.
that if you speak something into existence and believe that that thing will happen, then it's more likely to happen because you believe it and you will work towards it.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
so I'll share with the group part of my exercise routine at the beach includes meditation. And what I say in the ocean every day is I'll share this with you guys. Actually, a part of it comes from this meditation that I have been listening to, but then I've modified it. So I can't take full credit. So if someone has heard it before, yes, it was that guy's.
Mhm.
So what I say is, I am safe, free, and protected from internal and external harm. I am happy and content. I am healthy and whole to the full extent. I continue to experience love, compassion, gratitude, and appreciation, ease of well being, joy, abundance, kindness, health, rest, wealth, and respect. And the universe conspires to my benefit and those around me. And so I'm
Woo!
usually in the ocean when I say that. And I say it for Melissa and the boys, and then my friends and
Uh-huh.
family.
Wow.
But I firmly believe that the universe actually conspires to my benefit. And the reason I believe that is because the universe conspires to my benefit. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so like
Mhm. Yep.
people who are around me, when they hear me say it the first time, they're like, oh, okay, that's cute. But then if they're around long enough, I'm like, okay, because this is what we're gonna do, and this is how it's gonna work out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then that's what we do, and that's how it works out. And they're like,
Right.
oh. So for a
Mm.
little while, I had been saying that if people are like, what's your superpower? I would say that I was clairvoyant.
Mm.
Um, uh,
Wow, that is so powerful.
that depends. Like the idea of clairvoyance uh, can't really be explained, but I do believe that it has to do with intentional projection. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Like if I
Yeah.
say a thing and then I believe that thing and then it
Mhm.
happens, I didn't necessarily see the future.
Mhm.
It just so happens that I was able to affect the future, and the universe conspires to my benefit. So fine.
Right.
Um, and then, like for the
Mm.
boys, uh, I would say for the boys, and more specifically in this education experience in Costa Rica, the more important thing is respect and kindness.
Mhm.
And so, with respect and kindness, and then they know that I meditate, and they know that Melissa chants, right? And they know that we believe that, the earth is here to provide. We don't really get into monotheistic or polytheistic conversations, but they are aware of like religion, and that people are religious, and
Mhm.
that religion has culture and values.
Mm,
But
yes.
we don't necessarily practice a very specific belief system for them. On the topic of, and I'll say this too, from a mental health perspective, journaling and therapy are very important. So I mentioned that I had a meltdown. Had a meltdown and I was forced into therapy. So I would recommend that anyone listening just go get a therapist right now, because if you get a therapist right now, they won't force you into it. Because therapy does help. Everybody needs somebody to talk to who does not care about what you're saying to them. And although like a therapist is a professional who doesn't give a shit, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know who you are. They know all the right things to say. Mostly they know how to get you to continue talking. And really, that's what is necessary, is that people need to be honest with themselves. And usually you can't be honest with people who have an emotional investment in the words that come out of your mouth.
Right.
And that's what therapy is for. And so the therapist helps you, like, basically helps you articulate the things that you can't articulate to a friend, a neighbor, your spouse, your partner, your kids. Like, there's some shit you just can't say.
Totally.
But if you say it to a therapist, they're like, oh, interesting. How does that make you feel? And you're like, well, it makes me feel like shit. And they're like, not judging, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
And then from a journaling perspective, so I use this app, free pub, BetterHelp. BetterHelp should be available through your EAP. Oh, I'll mention, Melissa also professionally is an employee assistance professional, and she has a master's in social work. I mention that because I am very intense, okay? And that intensity presents itself in both positive and negative ways. Partners, if you have access to one, are important because they have to deal with your shit.
They sure do. Day in and day out.
So she's been excellent at being a therapist type, right? She's managed my shit.
Wow.
Until I had a meltdown, and she's like, I can't deal with this. You need to go get professional help.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I bring that up to say most people do not have access to a professional therapist. So you probably need one.
Definitely.
And then BetterHelp is an app. You can like sign up on it. You can chat with the therapist. You can do a video call, but they also have journaling. I do still write in a journal, but every now and then, you know, if you're on your phone and you're just like, oh, I'm going to type, boom, you can just type a thing. And then the journal like also helps you track like your mood or whatever. And then sometimes you can share your journal with your therapist if you're in active session. Active meaning maybe I do therapy on every Wednesday, but if I'm journaling daily, my therapist can at least see my journal. You can do things like that.
Wow.
And then every now and then, you know, if you click the mood and you're like pissed, then the therapist can be like, oh, you know, I read your entry. I see you're pissed. You know, how are things going? And then it can be like in real time instead of needing to hold on to something and then wait until you get to the next session. You can't remember shit like that. So I've been recommending to all of my friends, all of my male friends, because one of the things is, right, like therapy in general, there's this idea that you only need therapy when you are not capable of managing your day-to-day responsibilities, however that plays out. So like some people may call that weakness, some people may call that vulnerability, some people may call that like not being able to take care of your shit, some people might call that going crazy, right? However you want to articulate it, basically you can't respond to your day-to-day normal activities in a normal, healthy, emotionally intelligent way. And even normal, right? Like, so long as you don't blow up at the people who are supposed to be your loved ones. I'll call that, like, the opposite of normal is blowing up at people on a regular basis, right?
Yes.
And so Therapy helps, journaling helps, meditation helps. And then it goes back to the voices in your head, mental health as a function of
Uh-huh.
what you look like, because
All
we're
right.
all constantly judging ourselves based on this
Mm-hmm.
exterior message that says you need, and I'll say this too. The only reason I can even have this conversation actually from a third party perspective is because we also don't have TV in the house. So since we don't have TV, we don't have commercials. Since we don't have commercials, I don't have the messaging. So that when I see the messaging, I'm much more sensitive to it. So it's like, you got to go buy this car. You need to eat this McDonald's. You really need to be drinking this beer. You need this type of beer. Oh, and don't forget your Cialis. You know what I mean? And I'm like, damn. And like,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
all the commercials all the
Yeah.
time. Or some sort of way to make you feel like whatever it is you're doing isn't enough.
Uh-huh.
And I think that all of that coupled with the normal daily stress of just regular ass life,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to extract yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically what we've done.
Wow.
And so I sent you those photos of us
Mm-hmm.
at the beach. But actually, my buddy who follows me on Instagram, he copied those photos and sent them into this other group. And those guys don't follow me on Instagram. And so we had a chuckle about it. And one guy said that, I found the fountain of youth. Another guy was like, oh, and he has abs. What the hell's going on? And somebody else, but what we started talking about was the lifestyle that I live today and
Mm-hmm.
the way it presents itself in the way I look.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's a lifestyle change. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm special necessarily. It's just that I don't do the things that they do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
I
know what you mean.
removed myself
I know. Yeah.
from that path. And
Yeah. I
and
knew
so
it.
yeah.
I knew you had a full story because you don't just wake up like this. And I knew you had a spiritual practice, but we had not gotten into that sitting at Cafe Bohio.
Yeah,
But
right,
now
right,
it's
right.
very clear, like even so simple as you removing the TV because you're programming your mind and you're like keeping your mind clear and you're doing these meditations, like this meditation that you just recited for us that you do every morning. Like that's so powerful. You journal, are mindful about the words that you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of the practices are like, oh yeah, they're almost like I'm almost like relieved, like, oh yeah, of course he does have a spiritual practice. And I love that you categorize that, or you just started speaking into those as we started talking about spiritual practice.
Yeah.
So much wisdom, Donald. Now, is there anything you want to leave anybody watching with? And any last little point that
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. One, love yourself, right? And I know
mm,
people say that shit,
yeah.
but it's true, right? One. So if somebody tells you to love yourself and then your response is like fuck off, go to therapy.
Okay. Noted. Noted.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because that's actually a really encouraging thing to do. So, you know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they said it with an attitude,
Yeah.
right? Like, fine. Um, Second is do all you can to remove the stress.
Mm.
But that is very stressful because if you try to remove stress, what you find is you will stop living the life that you've been told to live. And I recognize that that is a challenge. Like, I'm not pretending that it's easy, you know, but if you take the time to put your energy toward doing something different that's less stressful,
Mm-hmm.
that energy is better used
Mm-hmm.
rather than using that energy to manage the stress of the things you're doing. Um, And, of course, that's not easy either, right? None of this is easy, but life is difficult. But we only have one. And if we're going to enjoy it, right, we're going to enjoy it. It's our responsibility to enjoy it, because the world is not set up for us to enjoy our lives. The world is set up for us to like work.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Totally.
Yeah. Outside of that, have fun to the best of your ability. Try to smile at people who you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
actually,
good.
here's what I'll say. I have a great smile. This is a known thing.
Yeah.
But I don't always smile at my family.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been consciously trying to smile at them.
Wow.
Because it's not fair that they don't get to, experience what my smile brings to others. Because, I'm like, I'll smile at people and they'll smile back and make their day brighter. I'm like, okay, go on.
Totally.
But I don't smile at my kids. And so then they don't get to experience that experience. And here's the one last thing, because I'm always thinking and I'm always like processing. Here's the thing that I thought of the other day. When I'm thinking that my kids don't fully appreciate all of the effort that I'm putting in for their benefit, I am blessed to have them as children. They are blessed to have me as a father, right? And so they don't have to earn my effort. They are blessed. And then I'm like, okay, fine, fuck it. And then I just like do whatever it is I was getting ready to do. But I say that like that helps reorient my perspective as it relates to like, when I'm like, I did all of this and y'all still can't make your beds.
Totally, yeah.
You know what I mean? I did all of this because they're blessed to have it.
Okay, like, wow.
They don't have to make their beds, whatever.
Oh,
now, of course, I'm not saying like let them do whatever. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I'm just saying for like my own mental health and my own perspective, I am a blessing to my children.
Wow. Yeah. And so how would you summarize that? Like, is it like you are enough? Is it the law of attraction? Like you guys have magnetized each other? Is it, I'm just wanting to like summarize that, because it's actually really powerful, because we can get caught up in those little details and then cortisol levels go up and it's just say things
and mine spike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Oh wow, so these are your mental practices. Thank you for giving us a look into the life of Donald. Like, yeah, there's a lot there. Thank you so
and
much.
Actually that's only focused on mind, body, spirit from a fitness perspective.
I know.
There's all kinds of other shit, but
I'm sure there is.
But follow me on Instagram. But I'm just kidding, because my Instagram is private for everybody else. Actually, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn. That is a different persona.
Yes. Yeah, I like that LinkedIn profile you got. That's a good one. Love it, Donald. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And we'll direct people over to you, if you're open. I know you guys help people get settled.
Oh shit, that's right. Good point. Right. Let me do a little sales. Right. You're right.
Tell us.
Okay. If you're going to come to Jaco, look up elevatejaco.com, ELEVATEJACO, elevatejaco.com. That's if you're going to come visit and you want to know like cool things to do in town. I actually also, because I am an entrepreneur, I have a business where I do coaching, mentoring, and inclusive networking for people. That business is Snapshot Consulting. You can find that. You can follow me on Instagram. No, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Donald Scott II in Austin. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Snapshot Consulting is dwsnapshot.com. So yes, if you send me a message, I'm free to talk. But I'll also say my coaching cost is way less than everybody else's, because I do it kind of as a hobby, and I only charge people because if you don't charge them, then they won't show up. But it's only like, and it's quick. But I will say, as people book more time, the price goes up, because then we both agree that what I'm providing has value.
Absolutely. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah,
Very nice. That's such a good entryway to like introduce people, get your feet wet, and allow yourself to receive support. And then once you see the needle moving forward, boom.
Yeah, then price is going up. Right. Because what I actually add value is way more than what I charge. But I don't do it to make money, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Very cool. I'll get you to send all those links to me so that we can put them in the YouTube description and just have them all correct, because I've noted them.
Okay,
but
got it.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for that smile that we got to see so much.
That's right.
Yay. All right, everybody. Thank you. And stay tuned. In the month of March, we'll be chatting with more guests. And, we're just continuing to bring other people's experience, other people's knowledge, other people's wisdom, so everybody can stay inspired and also feel like they're not alone. Everything that we've talked about is very real. So thank you, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.